Over the coming weeks and months, we're going to be spending a lot of time thinking about the implications of the recent advancement in artificial intelligence that's embedded in ChatGPT, its impact on society, its impact on how we teach, the sorts of skills that are going to be in demand in the marketplace. These are all very important questions. I know a lot of my colleagues are especially concerned about plagiarism and how we're going to watch for that. But what I wanted to talk about today is some of the opportunities in the teaching space that these tools afford us. That this is a really exciting time to start thinking about new ways of doing things and taking some really time-intensive, labor-intensive bits of work and automating it so that we can spend more time on the really sorts of exciting part of teaching. And so I'm just going to start the conversation by thinking about some of the ways that I am envisaging using the ChatGPT model to help me run my simulation unit. So this is an extended interprofessional simulation where I bring students together from a variety of different areas of study at the postgraduate level, though we have run it and continue to run it in the Malaysian campus at the undergraduate level. And there's been some aspects of this exercise that just haven't gone as well as I'd hoped. Now, most of it goes incredibly well, but there's one aspect in particular, the sort of media campaign, social media aspect of the simulation where different groups put together media strategies and try and implement them, and part of that is social media. Now, we've used Slack, we've used Microsoft Teams as a vehicle for this, sort of a quasi-professional space, and I've just created a channel for students to use as social media space. What I wanted was this really dynamic virtual environment where students can get a sense of managing communications for some sort of campaign. And of course, you know, in real life, in Twitter and various other spaces, there's hundreds and thousands of responses to their tweets and their interactions. And so within the simulation, you get maybe 10 or 12, if it's a large class, big simulation, 10 or 12 organizations. And so it really lacked that dynamism. And so what I'd always thought would be possible one day, if I put in a couple of years of hard work, was to devise a model where we could create some bots that would react to students' social media posts in ways that we could sort of manipulate behind the scenes and give a sense of that energy and dynamism. But that's always, boy, I would like to do that, but I would have to learn a lot more programming to get there. But since this tool has come out, I've been able to do it in a day to put together the basics of a model. It's still in a very draft sort of prototype version right now, but this is what it's going to look like. I've created an instance of Mastodon, which is an open source microblogging or Twitter clone that I've built it so that it's not federated. So once the simulation starts, I'll give each organization within the simulation access to this this self-contained Twitter clone. And each organization will create their own accounts, and the students will try to use social media as a vehicle to influence public opinion or engage in media campaigns, etc. But within this space, if we come in here and make a post, we do something like, let's say the simulation has to do with, we run one that has to do with the Australian and Malaysian governments trying to initiate a new swap deal for refugees. So I can't believe that the Malaysian and Australian government are trying to create a new refugee swap deal. Make it stop. Okay, sort of a generic, let's say one of the organizations makes this post. You can see it pops up here. Yeah, so it goes in there. Every student in the class sees it, but obviously you're going to get the hundreds and thousands of interactions with that post that you might get in real life. And so what I've done is I've used the ChatGPT API and created an R application that will pull all the headlines from the server, and then it will take, for each of those prompts, it's going to ask to create 3 long tweet replies. The replies should come from someone who's angry and just strongly disagrees, someone who wants to know more, and someone who agrees. So it's going to create 3 sorts of tweet replies. I specify here that the proportion of likes and retweets here that are going to come from each. So it's going to generate these, and it's going to populate a spreadsheet based on these tweets, and we can take a look at what it spit out here. So you can see, I can't believe the Malaysian, Australian, blah, 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 the content that I just created, and the text of the responses. So we will go ahead and tell the application to post these new tweets in a bot on the Mastodon server. So now when I click on this, we have my original post. I can't believe that the Malaysian and Australian governments are trying to create a new refugee swap deal. Make it stop. And we have a post here from Jack Smith, from human rights activist. We won't let this go unnoticed. Refugee swap deal must be stopped immediately. Stop the dehumanization of innocent refugees. Refugee swap deal. Hashtag stop now. Human rights. 3,000 likes, 200 retweets. That last bit kind of shows the limitations of the artificial intelligence, but still, that's an amazing response. And the way I built it, I will item by item within R just make sure that it makes sense before I send it to the server. Let's take a look at the next one. Diana Jameson, I asked it to create names and positions. UN delegate. What are the specifics of the refugee swap deal? We must understand the facts before we can take a strong stand. Sort of a wishy-washy UN response, which is great. But this gives you a sense. And so the student, when they make these posts, are going to be aware of how it's impacting public opinion. I can craft the likes and shares and retweets that are automatically generated based on how good the student has done at crafting their position and replying to the rebuttals that are generated and their engagement with other media strategies of the other players. So it takes something. If I were to write these out by hand, certainly I could. I could employ a team of research assistants to help me monitor in real time everything that's going on. But this allows me to take a step back, act as though I had a team of RAs, but that team of RAs is in fact now the chatbot. And I can say, yes, this tweet is relevant and worded well, or this one isn't. I'm going to generate new ones. And so it creates a world of possibilities that just would have been too labor intensive before to realize. And hopefully, we'll see in the next iteration, but hopefully it creates some of that dynamism that the social media aspect of the simulation was lacking. So there are other things that I thought might be relevant here if we go just to the ChatGPT main site. For the simulation, sometimes I ask students to respond to a position description for a real role in a real organization. With a large craft class, crafting these position descriptions can be quite onerous. But in here, I can just say craft a position description for a communications director for an environmental NGO based in Australia. Please include some likely job interview questions at the end. And so we can see what it comes up with, a position description, communications director identifies what they'll be responsible for. And again, I want to eyeball these, make sure they make sense, but it saves an incredible amount of time for me to search and tailor these to specific organizations for the students within the simulation who are coming from 14 different degrees and areas of study. And sometimes I ask the students to do a mock job interview, so I can ask some likely job interview questions that would be relevant for this area. So as I said, we are clearly going to be talking a lot about ChatGPT and its implications and AI's implication overall. Clearly there's some very disturbing possibilities, likelihoods that we're going to have to actively work to prevent. But there are also possibilities that can really enrich the teaching and learning experience. And so it's just a really exciting time to be thinking about this stuff. So let me know if you have any thoughts about how you might use the ChatGPT or the AI to enrich your teaching, or maybe you already have. I'd be really curious to see and continue the conversation.